but if we go back to the foreign policy, what should Biden have done on the foreign policy stage with regard to Ukraine that he hasn't done? I mean, my understanding is that you are closer to Biden when it comes to this issue, only this issue, than you are to the presumptive Republican nominee, Donald Trump. So, do you have a critique of how he's led the United States in supporting Ukraine and pushing back against Russian aggression?
Well, first, let me say on my behalf and behalf of anybody else who comments on Ukraine, I think it's a mistake to measure against the metric of either Joe Biden or Donald Trump. So just taking this on the merits,
Yeah.
Biden's first mistake was before the Russian invasion. He did not make a serious, sustained effort to deter the attack. In fact, he said at least on two occasions publicly he didn't think he could deter the Russians. He could punish them after the aggression took place, but he didn't think he could deter them. Now, I think there were a number of steps that the U.S. and the West as a whole could have taken to try and deter the Kremlin from going forward. They may have failed, but they weren't tried. Second, we suffered from an enormous intelligence failure at the beginning and in the early weeks of the war. Congress was briefed in closed session, which of course immediately leaked, that our intelligence said that Ukraine was likely to collapse, that Kyiv would fall in a matter of days, and the country would fall in a matter of weeks. Turned out not to be true, fortunately. But that's a massive intelligence failure that somebody's going to have to answer for at some point. And then third, during the course of now almost 2.5 years of war, having failed to deter the Russians from invading, we have been repeatedly deterred by the Russians and their threat of a wider war in Europe, occasional nuclear saber rattling, from providing assistance and advice to the Ukrainians on a really strategic way to defeat the Russians. I think the Biden administration has shown they don't want Ukraine to lose, but they're very worried about doing what's necessary to allow Ukraine to win. And the message to Russia and to our other adversaries around the world is that this administration, at least, is very subject to threats of a wider war. I don't know where Russia would get the wherewithal to fight a wider war if they had that capability. You'd think they'd have it in Ukraine to make up for the abysmal performance of their military so far. But in my judgment, across more than 3 years now, before and during the conflict in Ukraine, which is a serious matter of American national security interest, the Biden administration has not performed well.